Hi, my name is Morgan and I am a neuroscience researcher, and today we are going to be reacting to an episode of House MD. Before I start the video, I want to say thank you so much to everyone who's been subscribing. I'm recording this episode a little bit early, but I think that I might hit 200 subscribers by the time that this comes out, so thank you so much to everyone for that. If you missed my 100 subscriber celebration, I got a bunch of my friends from grad school together to react to some memes. I will link it in a card wherever those go and also in the description. Please check that out. I thought it was really funny. It was a great time. We'll probably be having them back on the channel again to do more reactions. One of them actually recommended that I react to this episode of House MD, so I'm really excited for it. If you're unfamiliar with House, it's a medical drama. I don't think it's airing anymore, but it's about this guy named House who has a drug addiction and walks with a limp, but I think at some point that ends up not being the case anymore. And right now we're going to be reacting to season 5 episode 24, which is the season finale. So if you're currently watching House and you haven't finished it, major spoilers ahead probably. Also, usually whenever I do these reaction videos, I try really hard to say at the beginning, like, hey, I understand this show was made for like comedic purposes, or it was made to entertain, it wasn't necessarily made to be accurate. So while I'm nitpicking it apart, I totally understand the people behind it and their reasonings for not making it one way or another. But this is a medical drama, so I kind of expect them to get the medical things correct. Surely they had a research team for that. So it might be a little bit harsher on House than I was on, say, The Big Bang Theory or other shows like that. Also, I'm super excited to do this because I haven't reacted to any medical dramas, and I always think it's fun to look at the brain from a different perspective. And so as a neuroscience researcher, I look at it sort of more mechanically. How does it work? How are the cells working and stuff like that? Whereas medical doctors are always looking at it in the way of like, how does it function within the human and how does it make us do different things? So I think it's interesting to look at from different perspectives. There might be some stuff that comes up that I don't know because I did not go to medical school. So I think this will be fun for everyone, hopefully. And lastly, like the episode of The Big Bang Theory that I reacted to, I will be cutting out all of the parts that aren't related to the brain subplot, just because I don't want to get copyright striked, and also I don't really have anything interesting to say about those. So I'm going to cut those out. Alright, so this is House MD, Season 5, Episode 24, Both Sides Now. I think you'll see why I wanted to react to this one soon.
Risotto's not bad, but it's not what Chef Zane did back at Fortunato. He replaced the rosemary with saffron, for one thing. And what is this stock? Did you get out of a can?
My fish isn't bad.
But it's not great either, I'm sure. I warned you against the snapper.
This guy's rude.
Do you think it'll calm down?
God, I hope so. That guy is a bit of a blowhard, though, isn't he? The food's not spicy at all. You can barely taste it.
Mine's pretty spicy. Try it.
I don't taste anything.
Have you been throwing rolls at me?
He doesn't taste anything because COVID. JK, this came out way before COVID.
It wasn't me.
Really, he didn't.
I'm sorry someone would choose to behave that way. Really, yeah. I'm so sorry. Really sorry. No. I swear.
So just to start this off, there are several mini disorders that would make you behave in a way that doesn't match up with what's happening in your brain. One that I can think off the top of my head is like Tourette's or autism, that would make you your body movements not match up with what you are intending to do. Because I looked at the synopsis of this episode, I know that's not what's happening here. But if someone in public is doing something and they genuinely seem like they didn't mean to do whatever it is, your first reaction should not be to beat them up. Maybe try some empathy first.
Not me.
Bloody tear could just mean subconjunctival hemorrhage. Sneeze too hard from a cold, which causes lack of taste. House isn't gonna care. Does black tie optional really mean black tie?
Fun fact, if you hold in a sneeze and you do the thing where you like don't actually sneeze but you like hit your head real hard and there's like some pressure build up, that can make your eyes bleed. So yeah, there's a lot of different reasons why your eyes could bleed. Another reason that I can think of is medical drama. They tend to really like to make people's eyes bleed because that is very dramatic.
I don't want to read.
There's been a glitch with the wedding. And House will be interested.
Glitch?
Patient had his corpus callosum cut to correct a seizure issue.
Glitch?
The seizure stopped after the surgery, but he's having trouble adjusting to a split brain.
That's interesting. So cutting the corpus callosum is a sort of like extreme measure that's taken to stop seizures. So you really only do them if someone's seizures are to the point where they're affecting their everyday life and they're like no drugs are working or any, like there's absolutely no treatment that's been working. So what they do is they take this sort of split down the middle of the brain. It's called the corpus callosum, and it's just a bunch of axons connecting the different sides of the brain. And so they'll cut down that, and that doesn't actually stop the seizures, but it stops the seizures from traveling, so it sort of reduces the amount of damage that happens. So if you have a seizure on this side of your brain, there's no chance that it will cross over into the other side of the brain and affect your entire brain. It'll only affect part of your brain.
Glitch?
This is Dr. Taub. Tell him about shopping.
I go into a grocery store, everything seems normal. I get to the checkout, and there's all these extra items in my cart. Stuff I didn't put there. Stuff I hate. My left hand hates me. Yeah.
So just because I'm not sure if this is going to become an issue in this episode, your brain sometimes connects to the opposite half of your body. So there are exceptions to this, but as a general rule, your left side of the brain controls the right side of your body, and the right side of your brain connects to the left side of your body. So what he's saying, his left side hates him, that would mean that the right side of his brain is messing with his left half. We'll get into it, but I don't think that this is necessarily how this condition presents.
Yeah. I think House would be interested.
Just warning you, in a good mood. And largely pain-free, so I've got no idea how things are going.
Alien hand syndrome.
Set up by a stroke, or is there a pony in the backyard?
Split brain. Right hemisphere controls the left, and
It's making life miserable. Non-logical thinkers often do.
Current issue isn't the split brain. The surgery corrected.
You're dissing the right hemisphere? Most people who have this operation don't even notice they're missing anything. Left brain has language, arithmetic, rationality. Right brain is a mute loser.
right brain is
This is why I wanted to talk about this episode. So there's a big thing, for some reason, that the right and the left brain are separate, like, concepts. Like, I think the left brain's logical, and the right brain is creative, or the other way around. I don't know, because it doesn't matter. It's wrong, and it bothers all neuroscientists. We get really upset every time we see this, and so to find this episode, I literally Googled, like, House MD brains, and the first thing was, like, left-right brain issues, and I was like, that's not real. So, this is why we're talking about this. Your one side of the brain does have more projections that have to do with language, but that doesn't mean that it's the side that controls logic and language and all of those things. Your frontal lobe is sort of more where logic is, and to our best knowledge. So these are very abstract concepts. So in general, we don't really fully understand these yet. But as abstract constructs to the amount that we understand, your frontal lobe controls logic, which is on both sides of your brain because it goes across the front part of your brain. So, no, your left and right brain are not totally separate concepts. For the most part, they mirror each other. There are some exceptions to that, but there's no, like, center of creativity that's, like, located on one side or the other.
is more aesthetically oriented, has greater facial recognition. I couldn't have been a plastic surgeon without it.
Yes, and where would junior high be without our ability to judge people on aesthetics?
Right brain's also more aware of the present moment, our place in the universe.
It's a universal daisy chain of peace and love. Throws buns at people.
His present symptoms could mean autoimmune disease, nasolacrimal tumor, an infection, or just a cold.
Good morning, sunshine.
I don't know what a cold would do this. I'm very confused where they're trying to go with that thread. But, yeah, I already said it, but it's not as black and white as they're making it sound. Yeah, one side does have more facial recognition, and if you're going to, like, if someone gets a traumatic brain injury on one side, they're more likely to get prosopagnosia, which is something that I'll spell down below because I did not say that right. But it's like an inability to recognize faces, but that doesn't make it more creative or more judgmental. It just means that it has more influence over recognizing faces. People just read a lot into the brain a lot of the times, and this is why I'm doing these reactions, because it's annoying.
You got a brand new toy. You want to play?
We need to talk.
Great. I love euphemisms. By euphemism, I mean when you say something, it means something else. Begin eliminating. Search the home.
I know every single doctor who's ever reacted to House has always said this, but doctors don't go in and search your home literally ever, so no.
Does our patient freak you out a little?
No.
If he's two people, then we're all two people and we just don't know it. So what does that say about...
So this is something that interesting that happens with people who split their corpus callosum. There does tend to be a small difference between the halves sometimes. This is very like anecdotal and case studies. It's not like full on science just yet. Sometimes people will experience things where like if they're put in a study and they're given like one eye is covered up and they're asked to look at two sides of a screen and replicate what the two sides are, then they'll only process like one side of the screen because only one eye saw it. But that's kind of weird because your eyes project weirdly onto your brain in a different way than just the solid like split left side projects right side and right side projects left side. So I don't know, but they're not two different people. You're the same person that you were before, just split.
about identity?
It says we're making it up as we go along, which I find freeing. Wow, I haven't been in a bathroom this size since my dorm in med school. Is that fungus?
It's from the steam buildup.
I swear the answer in House is always that there was mold somewhere. I guess be afraid of mold, but like, it's not always going to cause neurological issues.
Wait. Hey. Great. Did you find my MP3?
Not yet, but I got your shaving stuff, toothpaste, deodorant, some magazines, and this cactus from your window.
You didn't have to do that, really. The hospital supplies all that stuff.
Still trying too hard, huh? Trying to get your other half to like me.
No.
So I did some quick Googling in between this scene and the last scene because I admittedly don't know everything, and I think it's important that we as scientists admit whenever we don't know something, but also it's important to educate yourself. So based on a quick Google search that the writers of the show definitely would have been able to do, I found that people who suffer from what is called split brain syndrome, which is the condition that they're saying that this patient has, are fully aware of both sides. So it's not that their brain is split in half and like one side is doing one thing and the other side is doing another thing, and like each side doesn't know what each other is doing, because they're still a person who's able to put things together. So they can still control each half of their body. They just can move them separately. In most cases, it actually improves their performance, like how that like patting your head and like rubbing your stomach at the same time is like basically impossible. People with this condition can do it because they can control both sides separately a lot easier, and they're not connected to each other. Or there's even some cases where people with split brain can open a book and read both sides of the book and retain that information because their eyes are sort of split and not working together. So while your body's not necessarily like working together to do these things, you know what your body's doing and you can control your body while doing it. So you're not going to be like your left half is not going to be a totally different person than your right half.
No, don't say that, okay? I like you, which means that we shouldn't read into that.
Antifungal meds?
They're acting like he's possessed, like he's not possessed. And like I said earlier, there are conditions other than split brain where your body doesn't do what you want it to do. Again, the main one that I can think of being Tourette's, like your body will move in a way that you are telling it not to do. But that's not what this person is going through, supposedly, according to the show. So he would be fully aware that he's about to throw a soda can, and then he would throw it. Like, he would be consciously trying to do that with his brain. So hopefully maybe in the end they give him a different diagnosis and make this accurate, or they're just going to keep on spreading misinformation.
Ordinarily, we'd put them in your IV, but since your right brain doesn't seem too fond of IVs, you should be feeling better in a few days.
I have to get back to work. Rick says you're...
Okay, and that's not how hospitals work. I've been to hospitals many times because I had a lot of issues when I was smaller. And yeah, if they're going to give you an IV, they're going to give you an IV. If they have to like tape your arm down, they'll give you an IV because you need it. I don't know what condition this guy would have. They would need to give him an IV though. I feel like he would be more put into like a psych ward or something because he's not a harm to others or like a danger to others. So he'd probably be like visiting more than... Like, he'd be an outpatient more than an inpatient, and he doesn't seem to have any issues beyond not being able to control one half of his body. So that's not something they would admit you to a hospital for that I can think of.
Shift will be waiting for you when you get back.
Thanks. Oh my God. God, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
This is even worse whenever you think about the fact that in real life he would be able to control that half of his body. So he did that on purpose. That's awful, though, that they would even try to do this. I know I read a thing one time where someone with split brain tried to say that the different sides of their brain were different religions. Like, one half of their brain was atheist and one half of their brain, I think, was Jewish or Catholic or something. And that was interesting. But that's not... First of all, that's one person's account, and so therefore it's anecdotal and not necessarily science, and also it's not the same thing as smacking your girlfriend and one side of you loving her and one side of you hating her. That would not really happen. In my head, this is more multiple personalities than split brain.
I'm sorry.
I have to get back to work.
Babe, wait, hold on. No. Listen, Mia. I can't walk.
Oh, I forgot about his, like, bleeding eyes. That's probably why he's in the hospital. Also, the not being able to walk thing, this is also feeling a little bit more like conversion disorder. So if you're not familiar with conversion disorder, not many people are. It's one that we're still trying to figure out what in the world is happening, but essentially it's like you get really stressed out and your body as a reaction to that will do things that you're not telling it to. My boyfriend had it for a little while and he wasn't able to walk, so that's why this reminds me of that. There are some patients also who will like clench their fists so much like their nails will start digging into their skin and different things like that. They will move sporadically because they aren't in control of their body. So maybe he has a stressor in his life that they're going to discover at the end that is actually causing all of this. Who knows?
Well, obviously it wasn't the fungus.
And it's not a coordination issue. Dehydration can cause loss of balance. We haven't had him on IV.
No, good skin turgor, not orthostatic.
Could be our
Okay, they would not determine whether or not you're dehydrated based on your skin color. I mean, that's one factor, but like there's a lot of other things that go into it too. You could take like a urine sample or something to figure out if he's dehydrated. Also, like I said, if they want to put him on IV, they're going to put him on IV. That's not how hospitals work.
tax dollars at work. Constantly building new roadways and bridges. Meningioma, slow growing. Could extend along the subosteal layer of the cranial cavity, be hidden by the bone.
The cancer cells are actually regrowing a connection between the left and right hemispheres.
If you're right, the two halves have begun sending messages again, but it's too early in the process for him to pick up on it. But we can test for it.
That's interesting, and we're going to Google that now because I have never heard of this. Okay, so after a quick Google search, no, this is not a real thing. According to the interwebs, the corpus callosum can theoretically regrow some connections if it's severed at birth or like in a young child, which is a pretty well documented thing in most brain injury related things. A child is more likely to regrow different parts of their brain than an adult because they're still going through the growing phases. So it makes sense logically that they would be able to regrow some connections between their corpus callosum. This is a fully grown adult who I assume, based on what they were saying, had his procedure done as a fully grown adult, so the likelihood that he would regrow those brain connections is like none.
Your eye is focused on the plus sign. Any image that appears on your far right will only be seen by your left brain, and any image on your far left will only be seen by your right brain.
This is what I was talking about earlier. This is a study that they do with patients with split brains, and theoretically they'll process both, but not put them together. So they'll give them like two unrelated things or two related things, and they won't be able to tell which ones are the related things or the unrelated things, but they'll process both.
Okay.
Just start by saying the words.
Book, giraffe, willow, fortunate.
You're not saying the word.
I didn't see a word.
Real researchers wouldn't prompt them like that because that's leading, and then if it were a dishonest patient who was trying to compensate, they might just say a random word to attempt to compensate. That would be bad. So the theory here is that like the connection of the word is not passing over to the side of the brain that processes language, so while they're seeing the word, they're not able to say the word, but they'd still be aware that they're seeing the word, and if you give them like a piece of paper, they could like write down the word.
Could you draw a picture of what you think the word might be?
Look, I didn't see.
Exactly. That's what would happen.
Candle.
This is so cool.
Yeah, that's not freaky at all.
No communication.
So far.
Scott, why are you standing?
I'm a little chilly. I thought I'd get a sweater or something for my room. Is that okay?
That feels extreme because I don't know if in the universe that they're working within, if it's only one half doing these things, you need both halves of your body to stand up. So more likely to fall over. I don't know if that's a thing that researchers do. I'm not familiar with any studies that have done that. But it is interesting the way that he's trying to compensate for it. That is a real thing that we see because patients don't want to... I mean, it'd be terrifying to go through this, so patients don't want to acknowledge it.
A few more minutes.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the left hemisphere. The side that's obsessed with finding answers. The one that needs things to make sense. The interpreter. That's where we tell the story of who we are and why we do things.
That's also the side that was wrong. Right brain's advantage is that it isn't logical, doesn't choose which details to look at, makes connections you could never see.
Both sides of your brain are logical. Or illogical if you're that type of person.
Your insight to the mute loser.
I'll send it tickets to a Phillies game.
Confabulation means no communication. It means your theory's wrong.
He is cold. Why are you scratching?
It itches.
Ammonia breath. Your liver is failing.
That's an interesting turn. I don't know anything about the liver aside from that it detoxes things and processes stuff. So I don't know that it would show on the outside. I'll trust them on that one. I may not be able to comment from here if we're saying that this has something to do with the liver.
I want permission to do a liver biopsy. We're looking for sarcoidosis.
Fine.
What do you mean, fine?
What do you mean? What do I mean? Do you mean that because a liver biopsy is not a test that by any stretch of the imagination could be considered risky? So asking my permission is essentially wasting my time, and you're wondering what my reaction to that will be?
Any biopsy of any sort comes with its own risk, so that's a lie. But they're trying to build like some tension between these two.
Sorry, I know I'm a little ripe. Just a sweaty guy.
Recently?
Always. With a crazy left hand. Sometimes I fantasize about cutting it off.
I think this is something that's fun in shows like this, that whenever they show them doing ultrasounds for things that aren't pregnancy, because that is something that happens in real life, but people typically associate an ultrasound with pregnancy. So just fun fact, they can be used for other things, and they would be used in a case like this, I think.
Just a fantasy. It's the hand that's crazy, not me.
It's also weird to me, in this theoretical world that they've built, that only the hand is acting up, and that like his legs aren't also doing something, or like his neck, or like his head. The fact that it's only the hand is really strange. I think that's just to be dramatic, but again, he would know that he's doing this, and like it's not out of his control.
What? If it doesn't like an ultrasound wand, how's it going to react to a needle?
Can you get music into this room? So, your left hand would rather play air guitar than give me a hard time? Rather play air guitar than tie shoes, eat dinner?
Your right hand's playing too.
I don't want to discourage it.
That's a lot to process. So people with split brain do retain the motor functions that they had prior to splitting their brain. So like if you previously knew how to play guitar, or like, I guess in this case previously liked playing air guitar, his body would retain that sort of muscle memory type thing. Muscle memory is a misnomer. It happens in your brain, not in your muscles. That's a different rant for a different day. But again, still, he would know that he's doing it. I'm very confused. And he would be able to hold his arm down for a needle. He would also, like, unfortunately, hospitals, or fortunately, I guess sometimes hospitals have restraints for patients. If they really desperately needed him to not move his arm, they could just, like, tie it down, and then he wouldn't be able to. It's weird. This whole thing is weird.
Splinter hemorrhages under his fingernails.
What's that? BP and O2 stats are dropping.
This is unrelated to anything, but I've never seen a pipette connected to a needle, so that's a interesting thing, and I wonder whether or not it's real. Guessing the blood stuff is from the liver, and again, I'm not a liver expert. I have no clue what's happening there.
We need a bag of B negative in here!
So much for sarcoidosis.
Points to a clotting issue. Clots would explain all the symptoms. Why aren't we in the office?
I'm tired of clinic duty. There's only one thing that could cause squawking, right?
Yeah. We gave him heparin and did an echo of his heart to see if it was throwing clots, but...
Or an air guitar?
The heart's fine. We want to test for factor V Leiden, protein C, protein S, but the hand got tired of cooperating, so you finally knocked him out.
Then all those tests came out negative anyway, or you'd have opened by telling me your brilliant diagnosis.
He apologized for being sweaty, said it had always been an issue, but what if it's a symptom? There are cancers that cause night sweats and can lead to clots. Lymphoma.
So I think the concept that they're going with now is that the heart is throwing clots. If you're unfamiliar with the clotting and like strokes work, is a lot of times clots will form sort of around the heart, because that's sort of where your vessels are the biggest, and so they'll form in those spots, and then throwing it just means that it gets loose from where it formed and then gets into your bloodstream. And that's where the real danger is, because once that happens, it could go into smaller blood vessels and then block something off. So sometimes that will happen in your brain and cause a stroke. This dude's not having a stroke because he doesn't show any symptoms, unless they are trying to say that. I also am unfamiliar with a lot of cancer stuff, so if they end up saying something inaccurate about cancers or about the liver, I'm sorry that I'm not going to catch it. But if you catch it, leave it in the comments. I'll check it out.
Or pancreatic cancer. Let's scan his pancreas.
Where are you going?
Annie called. She's not coming back.
This is not the best time.
Look, you said the heparin would keep new clots from forming.
Maybe, but something's obviously causing the
If
clots.
you have pancreatic cancer...
We're not trying to scare you, but even in its early stages, the fatality rate...
You walk out of here...
Stop!
Legally, they can't start unpacking his things. They would obviously encourage him to stay, but also he would just have to sign a form saying that he's leaving wherever they don't recommend that he leaves. They wouldn't be allowed to like hold him there unless they thought that he was a danger to himself or others. And I mean, the worst thing that he's done is like throw some things, and they've released people a lot worse.
Look, I'd ask you to put yourself in my place, but nobody can put themselves in my place. Did she find somebody new? Was I not being attentive enough? No. She's just tired of being insulted by a limb. She said that my feelings toward her were mixed. Well, my feelings aren't mixed.
You're not going anywhere. Unless you want to go naked. Your right brain knows you need to stay.
I'm just gonna stop butting in with this, but like he would have control over that stuff, and like he would know that his brain wants to stay because it's his brain, and that's how you know things. I'm gonna stop saying it because I feel like a broken record, but just know these are my opinions and scientific neuroscientist thoughts.
This way.
What do you think? I can fix this? We need to offer this guy something he can only get if he stays in the hospital. Relationship counseling.
I don't know if his girlfriend's
it's two hemispheres. That's the breakfast of relationships. The most important one of the day. We need your special skills.
Is the guy out there? The guy that's gonna make my right brain work?
Oh. What do you think your right brain wants?
How should I know? It's crazy. It does things I would never do.
Dr. Wilson slightly enlarged, but within normal parameters.
Say something.
It's mute. It can't communicate with you. Maybe you should try communicating with it.
Talk to her. The well isn't deep, is it?
You're the dominant half. You make all the decisions.
The right side has no control over anything. Must be frustrating.
No masses in body or tail segments.
I can't.
Humans do have dominant halves of their brain, so you typically are either right or left brain dominant, but that doesn't mean like your left brain controls your right brain or your right brain controls your left brain. It just, honestly, it doesn't mean much.
Can't communicate with it. That's the whole...
When you decide to go and get groceries, what do?
What do you mean? I put on my jacket and I go to the store.
Your right brain has no idea why you're suddenly getting up and putting on your jacket. It just gets dragged along.
Next time, try saying it out loud.
Just say to the empty air, hey, I think I'll go to the store because we're out of peanut butter. How much did they teach you about people like me when you were learning to be a therapist?
I'm an oncologist.
This is a confusing part of House. He is an oncologist. There's no reason why he would be on this case. Except for, like, I think they mentioned cancer for a second. He would be a part of that. But, yeah. And to answer his question, we don't learn much. Like, I'm not a therapist, obviously. I don't know what they learn wherever they go to school to be a therapist. But I do know, like, in basic psych classes, we just learn, like, people with split brains exist. So I don't know how much more they study it there because it's an extremely rare occurrence.
Right brain likes what he's saying. Hasn't moved the entire scan.
Hasn't gotten us anything, though. Scan's clean. It's not pancreatic cancer.
Clotting could be a problem well before a solid tumor forms. It could still be pancreatic.
Yes, but if you want a diagnosis backed by actual evidence, we should probably look at other cancers. Lymphoma.
That's right, pancreatic. I know it's pancreatic. I know there's evidence. I know we've seen it. I just can't...
Right brain, left brain issues?
If the cancer's too small to find, let's make it easier. Let's open him up and paint it. There's a new...
This is another thing. So we literally just showed that they have a cancer specialist at the hospital, and now they're like, let's keep having House on this case, even though he's trying to diagnose a cancer that he can't diagnose because he's not a cancer specialist. This makes no sense.
Procedure using scorpion toxin and infrared paint. Paint only works on the cancer cells, makes them easier to spot.
Just agitating the pancreas can cause clotting, and you want to do it to a guy whose problem is clotting.
If I'm right about pancreatic cancer, the only chance he's got is finding and removing those cancer cells now.
His brain MRI showed narrowing in the blood vessels leading up from the neck. If we do shake something loose, we could kill him.
Or one of him. Clot in his brain could kill one of them without affecting the other.
He might actually be okay with that.
So to skip over a really gruesome surgery scene and possibly like have YouTube flip out about my content, they did surgery on the dude and didn't find any cancer.
Sadie.
We should search before I can get out.
Give him a dopamine drip.
We weren't looking up at the right time.
Get to your point, we're a little busy here.
Clots aren't from cancer. They're coming from his heart.
We echoed the heart, no clot.
Not while we were looking. Didn't I open with that? The clots were caused by an arrhythmia.
No arrhythmia.
Not while we were looking. Intermittent arrhythmia. This guy pulls our equipment off. Slightest provocation. We'd have to be watching in the exact... moment it happened, which I'm guessing, the way you two are scrambling around like idiots, is right now. Yes, I'm saying do a transesophageal echo.
We have to get his...
Okay, that was a lot to process, but basically what he's saying is that they, like, couldn't find the arrhythmia because they weren't paying attention to it, which I have a few issues with. First of all, if you're a person who has arrhythmias, I have them sometimes, you can feel it whenever it happens. The arrhythmia just means that your heart is beating in a way that's not supposed to be beating. So, like, sometimes, like, mine just, like, flutters a little bit. That's nothing serious. Don't have to worry about it too much. But if it's as serious as, like, they're saying, you would have to worry about it. And it is something that you would, like, report to your doctor if you have it. So, like, that should have been one of the first things that he listed that happens to him. Also, if they're in the middle of a surgery, they would have him hooked up to a heart monitor, and they would see the arrhythmia. So they would know if that's what was happening.
BP stable.
Absolutely. Right after the echo.
Systolic 70.
The heart looked healthy at the last echo, and an arrhythmia would cause clots in a healthy ventricle. Start with the left atrial appendage.
Wow.
Yep. I did it again. Now get this poor guy's BP under control and seal off the appendage. Then all we have to do is find out what damaged his heart before it goes after something he really needs. So what damages a healthy 20-year-old heart enough to make it send out clots like it's bombing Dresden?
Rhabdo?
Notified his kidneys, too. What about Graves?
Thyroid function tests were normal.
Cushing's. Cortisol overproduction can interfere with heart rhythm.
Run a dexamethasone suppression test.
I don't know, like, half of the words that they just said, so I'm going to assume that they're right.
Annie.
You hit me.
I know. I'm so sorry, but it wasn't me.
I know you would never have done that if you were in control of yourself, but
you can't.
I did some more quick Googling because I really, with how prominent this is in this episode, I was like, surely the writers, like, Googled some stuff. And so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just completely wrong. But no, I did more Googling. He would have had control over that, and he would have known that it was happening. He did that. So, no.
I'm back.
to talk with your doctors. I've been going over and over what happened, and I had this thought out of nowhere. Ever since I've known Scott, I've seen his left hand throw things, but always sort of playfully, thinking it's fun. But when he threw this, it was angry. And that's when his hand slapped me, too, when I brought it to him. Could it mean something?
Deodorant shouldn't... How often do you use it? A few times a day. It's special heavy-duty stuff. I have to send away for it.
Sprayed around a bathroom the size of a shoebox.
I'll check.
I see where they're going with this. And what they're going to try to say is that his left side knew that that was bad for him, which is wrong. Your brain doesn't become, like, psychic because you've had surgery. Your brain knows just as much as you know because it's your brain. So that's one thing. And one half of your brain would not know different things from the other half. Like they showed in the test that they did, it can perceive things differently. But he knew what was happening. And, like, he was able to draw it. He just couldn't say it. But he knew it. And it's not just going to know. Like, hey, this is the thing that's causing the issue. Like, it's not psychic. Like, his arm is not psychic now because he had his braid split.
The ingredients from the manufacturer.
I'll check for any references associated with health issues.
Somebody's grateful?
We'll just leave the...
Again, it's not psychic. It doesn't... I'm so confused by who thought that this was a good concept.
Three of you alone.
The deodorant has a high proportion of propylene glycol. Same stuff made a kid in Singapore develop a heart condition and, get this, seizures. Our patient may never have needed split brain surgery.
I'm sure he will half appreciate the irony.
if the person went to a good, reputable physician, they probably would have figured that out. Like I said, split brain surgery is like last resort. Like they try everything possible before doing that. I'm sure they would have tried changing that if they knew that it potentially had those side effects. Whenever something lists seizures as a side effect, typically you'd get like a seizure, a couple of seizures. If you're getting split brain surgery, you have had them to the point where you cannot function in daily life. So no. So I guess that was that episode of House. I don't think the brain issue ever got resolved, aside from like the dude was using deodorant that was bad for him. I am very confused. If it somehow got resolved and I did not see that part, please tell me in the comments, because I have no clue what's happening. But to summarize, your left and right brains are not completely separate if you have not had split brain surgery. Your left and right brains do essentially the same function with some small changes depending on the side. There's not one side that controls logic or one side that controls creativity. That is just a myth. If people with split brain do have full control over both sides of their brain, they just don't connect to each other. They are fully aware of how they're moving their limbs. That's that. Very, very confused. So I will link some articles about split brain in the description, just to maybe clear up any misconceptions that people may have, and give some more context to this episode. So that's all that I have for this video. I hope that you have enjoyed it. I hope that it was somewhat fun, somewhat educational. I think House is a really interesting case to look at, because I know it is widely disagreed with by most of the scientific community. So it's kind of fun to look at. Like I said, I try not to take these too seriously, because I understand that it was a show made for entertainment. A show claiming to be a medical drama, I do expect to be a little bit more medically accurate, especially whenever it's stuff that I was able to Google pretty easily. But it is what it is. And it gives me more fun content to react to. If there are shows or movies or YouTube videos that you would like for me to react to, please feel free to leave them down in the comments or send them to me at my email at askaneuroresearcher@gmail.com. You can also reach out to me on all my social medias, which I'll list here. You'll notice I recently added a TikTok. I am slowly figuring out that app, trying to connect with the youth. So follow me on there. Send me videos on there. I thought maybe doing like a neuroscientist reacts to TikTok might be interesting, but I don't really know if TikTok has like a science side like Twitter and Tumblr do, but who knows, maybe they do. Also, if you follow me on Instagram, you get to see all of the cool brain stuff that I make. Like I recently made this brain shirt, and I made some brain face masks, so I think it's fun to put some more content on there that's might be cool and interesting. I also did a story recently explaining how to do whole cell patch clamps, so it's a pretty fun place, I think. And with all that being said, I will see you next Wednesday. Bye!